Hi, I'm Ogi Shopov, and this is a recording of the Sitefinity Partner Exclusive webinar, which was aired on April 8th, 2014, on the subject of what's new in Sitefinity 7.0 from a technical point of view. The webinar was presented by Greg Karanikolov, who is one of our senior sales engineers, and we had a special guest, Nick Dachev, from the Sitefinity engineering group. Thank you and enjoy.
Some of the biggest changes that we have introduced with Sitefinity 7.0 in terms of breaking changes, that's the API. We have slightly changed the Pages API so that we have improved what information is stored into the different tables related to the pages, and more specifically the page node and page data tables within our database. Let's see. So we will also provide samples on how to replace code for programmatic construction of pages, and we will now explain what kind of changes there were exactly. Let's start with this. Some of the most obvious changes that were made were regarding the multilingual split pages. Split pages are pages which have different layout and widgets, but are in different language versions, as you know. So, for example, the English version of the page has different widgets or layouts compared to the French or Chinese, and as a result, the page internal structure is improved. There is now more well-defined separation between page metadata, which was stored in the page node, and the page presentation, which was the page data. The metadata information, which was previously located in page data, is now located in page node. And there is only one node containing the metadata and the page data items, and one item per language. This improvement removes the limitation of the page tree structure. Therefore, it's now possible to have split and synchronized pages in all levels of the page tree. As you know, previously only split pages could be created under a split page. So, as I mentioned, we will provide additional information and samples on what API was made obsolete and what code you should use to replace it with. Okay.
Just some clarification. This concerns only projects where someone needed to extend and to use the Pages API directly. Basically upgrading Sitefinity, and if you haven't used the Pages API to query or to create pages, and especially in multilingual mode, you will not have any worries. We do an automatic upgrade script, which for some project might take a bit longer. We've upgraded production projects which took like 10 to 15 minutes for very large projects. So you should be prepared.
All right. Okay. Let's see. We already have some questions which we will address during the end of the webinar. So again, another thing that we have as breaking changes are the workflow API. In previous versions, the content workflow API implied using property approval tracking record map on all workflow enabled items, which gave access to the workflow publishing history. This property is made obsolete in Sitefinity 7.0 and is replaced with an extension method. Now, in general, the workflow, there are several workflow activities introduced in the Sitefinity 7.0 version. We basically have removed a lot of interdependencies, which will make your coding with the workflow API even easier. We have introduced several new activities in that regards, which wrap around previous methods. Now we have delete page activity introduced in page approval workflow XAML file, and the new activity replaces the code activity for deleting a page. we will also provide additional information about these. Pretty much those are the most significant changes that we have in Sitefinity 7.0. So in a nutshell, if you are using the programmatic page creation in multilingual mode with split pages, or if you're working with custom workflows, yeah, so those would be the most obvious changes that we are going to regard in this new Sitefinity version. If not, upgrading will be quite as you're used to, and that will be absolutely problem-free. Okay, so I think we are about to reach the more interesting part. Before that, Nick, if you want to add something to it, or we can do
I just wanted to clarify about the workflow API changes. One of the biggest reasons for refactoring the way we store the workflow tracking was that there were complaints we are having very large storage of workflow related data, which now we are going to fix this, and basically this change shouldn't create any problems. Just from now on you have less data that is going to be stored in the database, and this is also improving performance with workflow enabled items.
Okay, excellent. So I can see more and more questions coming up, but we will get to these later on during the demo. Now, as you guys mentioned, you can see our screen, I guess. It holds the new DevReach website that we have available just to, for now, to illustrate the related items functionality. So, and just to answer the question, it's not a slide, it's the actual website that we are going to do the demo on. Now, this is a sample website that typically holds a couple of items, and I'm going to illustrate those with this next slide. So, for this new website, we have several, like a module with several content types in there. We have the whole DevReach website. As you know, it's a developer conference that we hold here in Bulgaria, and there are different sessions which take place around here in different locations, like in different halls. It's a 3-day conference, and different speakers attend and lead those different sessions. So we have created a working example of how that can be reproduced with Sitefinity. And we have those content types. We have a content type called sessions, which holds various session information. We have a content type called locations, which represents the different halls and the different venues which we're using for that very conference. We have speakers, which obviously are the guys that are going to lead those sessions and be presenting on them. And the days, that's like another content type which represents what events take place on the 3 different days of the conference. Now, I have illustrated this so that you'd kind of see really clear and get a clear idea of how the content types are interconnected between each other. For example, speakers, as you can imagine, those content types hold maybe names, some brief biography or a description of each speaker, and of course maybe a thumbnail or his photo. So we have also linked speakers with the content module images. We have locations, which are the different halls that the event takes place, which also are associated with images which display what the location looks like, And we had a couple of complaints. Guys, can you hear us fine? Or should I try to increase the volume in there? All right, we're good. Excellent. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to switch to the website itself. So this is the front end. I'm going to take you through some of those different sections, and I'm going to show you how those are represented on the back end. and then we're going to explain a bit more about the technology behind it. So we have the home page, which has those speakers, and when I click on one, it brings me to a page with more information about each speaker on his own. And then we have a schedule which displays those different days on which the conference takes place. And underneath we have exactly what's going on, like an agenda for that individual day. As you can see, while I go between those different days, my agenda below changes to what happens there accordingly. There are a couple more interesting pages. For example, the speakers. That's a listing of those guys that are going to attend my conference. And as you can see, for example, if I open that guy, I can see when I open his details, they are brought up as you would expect from the standard widget, which lists my items in details and list mode. But then I can see exactly how many sessions he takes part in and which those sessions are. The sessions page is even more interesting because it allows several different functionalities to be demonstrated right here. Now I have a full listing of our sessions, but we can filter them here. Those are different taxonomies, which was available before. But as a comparison, we also have the ability to filter a content item by related content item. So if you see all those sessions, we can see which one happens in the big hole 1, which was one of our locations, and small hole 2, small hole 3, middle hole 3, and so on and so forth. Right. Let's see. And let me open a session on its own in its detailed mode. So I can, as you can see, the sessions, the individual session details page shows who the presenters are, shows a bit of details, and exactly shows when those different sessions take place. It also shows how many attendees have registered for that. And also, one other thing that you can see here is that you can actually see similar items that are related by taxonomy. What you can see right here is sessions which have been tagged or classified in the same way. And now you can display those related content items using taxonomy right there. So let's see how that exactly happens. I'm going to go into the backend first, and now let's go to the sessions page. That's probably one of the most interesting pages in there. So as you can see, we have a couple of widgets here. We have the tags widget, which you know how it works. It just filters content by tag. We have a widget called locations, which is directly brought by our locations content type. Let me just demonstrate that really quickly. So this is our module. We have the sessions, the speakers, the days, and the locations. Now, if we go into the sessions, we'll see a list of the sessions that takes place during DevReach. And if we enter one of these, you will see the different content items that also have been related to that one. So we have the classifications, and here we have the related data widget. So here you can see who our speakers are, and you have a selector that is now built into Sitefinity. You don't have to develop that from scratch. You have the selector for locations and the selector for day. Just to illustrate where those came about from, what I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to go out of here. I'm going to go into the module builder that you're well familiar with, and I'm going to show you really quickly how to add those to a content type, how to add those related data fields. So let's, for example, take, let's see, sessions. You can add another one that can be related data. And now, as you can see, we can relate blog posts, events, pages, other sessions. Basically, this interface is even limited to what the API allows you to do. You can relate any kind of data, including users, including built-in content types, including dynamic content types and so on and so forth.
Just one clarification, for this release users are not added here as an option, but we'll shortly add this in, say, some kind of internal build after the official release.
Sure, and
this question, this is actually out of the box everything here. It's not really some kind of customization, and now you'll see how this happened.
And what about photo galleries? I saw a question coming about that.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, if you need to relate anything, as you can see, you also have the related media fields available right in there, and you can relate images, videos, and documents and other files. And that's now available also to built-in content items.
And yes, this is available not just in dynamic modules, but also on the out-of-the-box modules like news, events, blog posts.
Daniel is asking, will there be a Sitefinity user data type or e-commerce product data type to relate to? Daniel, I have like a good surprise for you. We have a sample. As Nikki mentioned, that's not yet in the UI. However, there's API to relate everything, and we have a sample which we'll go through. So we have a sample which we will go through to demonstrate exactly how to relate content items that are not even in here.
Yes, media libraries are here, and can we show them, let's say, the speaker?
Sure, let's open the speakers.
So here we have the photo, and the photo is actually related media. When you relate the media, you just have to specify whether this is what kind of selector are you using, yes, and also is this one-to-one or one-to-many. If you go to the limitations, do you want to be able to add one image or multiple images?
All right. So to recap, yes, you can relate everything to everything, and there is UI for a lot of different content item relations, and that's also available for the built-in modules like blogs, events, news, and so on and so forth. Okay. So as we saw, now we can relate everything to everything, and this is exactly where those, let me just get back to these, where those different related content items came about in those sessions, in the sessions content type. So as you can see, now we can relate to speakers, locations, days. We have related media here for sessions. You can also search throughout your galleries and attach different documents that you want to have. That is all built in right now.
By the way, actually, I think we have one feature that we can you go back to the related fields if you open some session.
Sure.
Not sure this is going to work, but generally we have also the create new item here. So if you have not created the item that you want to relate, you are able to do it directly from the UI and then relate to it.
Awesome. So now you can create actually related items on the fly without having to exit your content item creation from dialog right here. So we saw how you can easily create additional fields which would store the relation between one content item and the other. Now let's see how that actually is being represented on the front end. So this is our sessions page, and we have a content widget called locations, which obviously is pulling from our locations content type within our DevReach module. Then we have another widget called sessions, and this typically lists sessions from our sessions content type. Now, as you saw on the front end, let me just go back here. When you click on one of those different locations, the sessions also get filtered. And let me show you how that happened. I'm going to click here, edit on the sessions. And now we have added a few more properties in the advanced mode. This one is called related data. So I'm just going to go to the related data definition, and here you can choose exactly how you like that content item to be filtered by its related content item. So here, as you can see, you just give the field name, so which field name that is stored in the session's content type you would like to filter by. Let me just open that in a new window just so that you can monitor how all that happens. So we have a field name called location, which is this field right here, and we are relating a session to one location from that menu. Then you can choose what the related item type is, and obviously that's the relation item and content item type. And you can choose what type of relation that is. So in this case, our locations widget is the parent.
No, it's actually the session is the parent, and the parent field location actually creates the relation. It's not so straightforward, but
yeah. And so the locations is the child. You have the sessions, which is the parent, which holds that relation right in here. And then when you create that relation, and you can choose what the related item source is. In this case, it's this is being evaluated by URL.
yeah.
So when you choose that, you will be able to achieve exactly that functionality. So on the front end, when you have different locations, clicking on one, that would also filter its parent's content type, and it will filter that by that location field.
By the way, I feel like one question related to this question. Basically, one additional feature that we have is that if you want to know what is related to what, and say we go to the locations and say we open one location, and we want to know where is this location used. So here, if you see on the right side of the screen, we have the items linking to this item. So I can see that this location was used in the following 3 sessions. And also, if we want to, we'll show you in further in the demonstration how you can show on the front end the 2 possible relations. Let's say to show all the speakers for a given session, or to show all the sessions for a given speaker, which is a reversed relation. So you have an answer to this question, please. So.
Excellent. And once again, we will be addressing all the additional questions, because there are quite a lot. So we'll be addressing those either during by the end of the webinar, or in line if we are able to fit that into the specific topic. So we saw how that relation, how the filtering goes. Now I'm going to explain a bit more things here in this sessions widget. Now, as you can see, we have several different elements. We have the session title. We also have a listing of the speakers that are going to attend and lead that session. We also have individual like data on when exactly that session is taking place and where. So let's go ahead and take a look at the actually the widgets template and see how that was executed. Right. There are several things that are interesting to see in here. First of all, let me go to and focus your attention on this repeater. Now, with Sitefinity 7.0, we can bind a repeater to a data source, which is actually a content type, and it's done really easily. As you can see, we're just using the eval method, and we are evaluating like the speakers content type, and we can that way get a list of speakers.
Actually, not the speaker's content type, but the speaker's field. This is the field that we're using to relate the session to the presenter persistent type. and it's called speakers. So the data source really will return all the speakers, the presenters related to this session. And once we are inside the repeater item template, we are already in the context of the presenter, not the context of the session. So eval title actually returns the name of the speaker, not the name of the session.
Correct. And that will get us actually the name of the speaker that is related to that specific session that we are listing here. And in a similar fashion, but in this case, we can also get properties of specific content types just using that sort of expression. So we can easily get maybe the title of the specific day or the specific location.
Yes, these kind of relations here are one-to-one, so we don't really need a repeater because it's just one object related. So we can immediately use the properties of the related type, like the day.title, the location.title, and yes, to answer the question, we have changed the type descriptors of the objects in Sitefinity. So when you have a related data field, we return the actual object, not the ID, not the GUID of the object. And this is done on purpose, so you can really use it in the widget templates much easier.
Right. Okay, so there are a few more questions which we'll be addressing later on. This is what I wanted to bring your attention to in this specific case, exactly the difference between the one-to-many relations, which you can use a repeater for, or the usage of the eval when you have opportunity to get properties of each individual content item by just by using that kind of expression. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to again take a look at a session widget, which is slightly different. Let's take a look at another page. It's the session page, which again contains the same kind of widget, and it's used to display the details of each session. What we're going to focus on is that link. So as you remember, when you use a field from a dynamic module, when you're using a field and plugging it into the template, you can by default you're getting actually plain text. In this case, you can easily turn any field into a link, and this is exactly how you would do it. We have that helper method. So we have the related data extensions. It's an extension method that you can get the URL of, and you actually get the canonical location of a specific content item, and you can use that to create a link out of it. So as you can see here, it's really simple way of calling the URL of each content item. Just get its title and you can construct a link out of that content item straight away. There is a question, Nick, so will we be making this whole example available for download?
Yes, for sure. Actually, our idea is we will also record something like a video, how we created this site, and there will be a blog post related to the video, and all the templates actually will be available for download. Most probably we'll even put them in a GitHub account, a public account, so everything will be available. One detail that I wanted to emphasize on is basically this get default URL extension method. It could also be used directly like this. This is a bit obsolete, the sample. So this namespace get related data, it includes all kinds of helper methods that are to be used in the widget templates, so we can quickly bind and show related data. So the get default URL is one of the helper methods, and there are some more we'll show you now. And basically all these methods should be applied on the container.data item, which is basically something that comes from ASP.NET and is always present in the current widget template. This is the binding context.
Okay, and there was another question about the canonical URLs to work. So in order for them to work with the related data extension, it would need to be set to a page first, correct? That's pretty much true. You should set which page holds.
Yeah, I mean, basically if you have a widget which shows speakers somewhere, this will work automatically. So the canonical location is a service that Sitefinity provides out of the box, but it really needs at least a widget put in a page which shows the relevant content. If we go a little bit down here in the widget template, you see we have some more methods, extension methods. Let's say you can use to count related items, and we also have some methods that would give us the related items in reverse direction. Are we going to show that?
Sure, absolutely.
So now we had the speakers for a session, but if we go to the speakers, we want to show the sessions for a given speaker. So we are going to show you this. The problem with the speakers to session relation is that actually the speakers don't have a field called sessions. So we need another approach. We cannot directly use the properties, the type descriptor of this persistent type to get the related sessions. So here, I think,
yeah, then
on the speaker page, it's a bit, yeah.
All right, so let's demonstrate that, and then also there's another topic. It's about showing content by taxonomies. But let's first go and see how you can call content that in the reverse order. So display which content items a content belongs to. So there's another helper method that's get related pin parent item list. And yeah, I'll let.
Yeah, actually, here we have the list of sessions for speaker. So basically, how did we achieve this? We again have a very simple repeater, and the data source is based again on this extension method, get a related parent item list, and then we say the type of the relation, I mean the content type that we want to show. So here basically we are showing all sessions related to the current item, and the current item is actually the speaker. Basically this is a bit not too granular. I mean we can add here as an additional parameter the field like the speakers field. So if you want to show only the sessions related with the speakers field, and this one will show any session that is related to the current speaker, disregarding the field. So it's a bit more broad.
Correct. So just to recap, there is now a method through which you can get related items, and you can also filter and narrow that down by specific field that parent item relates to this one that we're currently displaying. So just to give you an example, if we have maybe people that are related to a session, but some of those are speakers and some of those are hosts, we can actually have different fields in that session which say which people are hosts, which people are speakers, and you can filter by these.
About the question, is this multilingual? For this release, we couldn't manage to make it multilingual. So basically, if one item is related to another item, this relation is valid for all languages. There is not a possibility to say that the English version of the session has some presenter which is only valid for English and another presenter which is only valid for the German version of the session. So this is not really possible with this release.
Right. Another thing that I just wanted to show is that you can also, you have additional methods here, for example, that get related parent items list that also has additional options, for example, to show you the count of the related content items. And as you can see, this is being represented right here.
But this really comes from the fact that we are returning the list.
Correct.
So the count is actually the property of the list object.
Correct. And another thing that I wanted to show you is how to relate content items by taxonomies. So let me get to that page really quickly. Right. So we have the option to, when we open a session, see the details of that one, but also see which sessions are related to that. So let's go into the sessions and take a look at that widget's properties as well.
Yeah, by the way, in this particular case, we didn't use related content, the feature related content, but the simple taxonomies. And it's a very simple, again, method that you can use to get all items from a certain type that have the same taxons or simplified tax as the currently shown item. So we'll show you.
Right. And let me just get to it. Yep. We have this this method. Let's see. So we have that repeater that is calling this method. So taxonomies helper, and we have the get items with same taxons. Then you just provide a few parameters, like what data item you'd like to get, by what taxonomy, and then what content type it's coming from, as well as a count, like number of items that you'd like to have in there. This is all coming from the Telerik Sitefinity taxonomies namespace. So that is something that's worth remembering here. I know and I remember a lot of customers asking about show an easy method or easy way to show related content items. And now you can do that either using related content types or using the same taxonomy that those guys are sharing.
And yes, these all methods will be documented. I really hope that we'll be able to do it for the release, but probably maybe 1 or 2 days later we'll have all of them documented as a developer story together with the feature. So no worries, you have both the website with the templates and also documentation.
Absolutely. Okay, and let's go back now. Those were quite a few different examples on how you can use related data, how you can relate one content item to another, filter, then display that relation in the straightforward or reverse way. Of course, we will be blogging, we will be documenting all of that, and we will be creating videos to give you more examples of that. Now, what I'm going to show you is, let's see, we have that register page, and I wanted to get a bit more into the sample of how that works. Actually, let me open my project through Visual Studio.
Just wanted to, well, Greg is opening this to clarify about the migration story. So if you already have content modules built with Thunder and you're using the Thunder related content feature, the old one, with the list of widgets, we still don't have a good migration story, and this is actually on the top of our lists for the following weeks after the release, that we provide migration scripts and instructions how to move to the current related content implementation, because really it is extremely important to actually use this feature. It is going to be developed further with a lot of additional goodies, and basically you really want to have all your modules built on top of this rather than any of the older methods.
And Nick, are there any performance gains to using this new method of relating content over the old one?
Basically, there shouldn't be, I don't think there are performance gains, but also there shouldn't be any performance degradations. And the method it's basically much more powerful, because as you can see, it's the widget templates, it's much easier to do them. Also, you can get everything in both directions, and this is all considered also in terms of performance. For example, right now, if you want to show items related to another item, what we have done in the API is undercover we're doing a join operation with the so-called content links. These content links actually provide the information what is linked to what, and this join operation should be really fast, and performance-wise it should be not worse than what you were using in Thunder, but much more powerful in terms of API.
Yeah, so maintaining and then upgrading after a new version is released, it's going to be much easier.
Yes.
Excellent. All right.
Just one additional consideration to move to this feature. Right now with this release, we have an additional feature which we kind of forgot to show here. It will be not enabled by default, but if it's enabled, when you try to delete a content item which is related to another content item, the system will warn you. Right now this is turned on off by default, because basically this is not always a case which is important for any implementation, but if such warning is important, then you might want to turn on this feature. And we will further also record links which are done not just through the related data fields, but also inside the content. Let's say in some HTML of a news item, you're pointing to a page or to an image. This will also be recorded as a content link. Right now with 7.0 this is not done, but pretty soon, even before 7.1, we'll have an upgrade with this. So basically your system will be protected, and when you try to delete a content item, the system will warn you. And this is only a feature that is going to be supported with if you use the related data and the content links.
All right, nice, thank you. Excellent. Now, as you can, what you're seeing here is actually a custom widget which creates a relation between the user and those sessions that we were discussing up to now. So as you can see, when you click I will attend that session, that number changes, and I will actually show you what happens in the backend. We have this method which actually does everything. It's called create a relation. So when we click on the button, what happens there is that the main item that we are currently creating association for gets pulled out. So we have the session right here that is stored in this master item variable. And when we attempt to create a relation, it actually currently it gets the current user, as you can see, and of course with our name, and it stores that user in the specific field that this content item, the sessions, contains. And this is how users get related to the content item. And that was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was Steve or Daniel's question a bit earlier, if that would be available. That is already available through API, and we will also be distributing that sample with that project, so you will be able to see how exactly that's done.
Yeah, just to make it a bit more clear, when you create a relation, you need the type of the item that you are relating, the ID of the item, and the name of the field that is part of the relation. This and also the provider, the data provider of the item that you are relating to. So these 4 parameters are needed for the relation.
Okay, so there are quite a lot of questions that we will be addressing shortly, and I think Bibi is doing a good job on addressing quite a few of these. Just before going to the questions, there's one other thing that I'd like to focus your attention on, and that's the custom fields for pages. So that is again one of the most requested features out there, and now you can easily, when you go to custom fields, you can see what the built-in fields for pages are, and you can again add new ones. And of course, those could be any types of fields, including related data, related media, and there are a few use cases based on that. For example, one of the requests by a big customer of ours was to have a widget which displays pages which are similar according to some criteria. And that kind of criteria could be classification. So now you can start tagging all your pages, and then you can have similar pages based on a taxonomy displayed as some part of your website. Again, another example of that would be if you want to relate media. So easily you can attach images to pages. So if you'd like to beautify your navigation, that's something that you will be able to do quite easily. All you have to do is just relate an image to your pages, and then by editing the template of your navigation widget, you will be able to display that thumbnail or image right in there. There are probably quite a lot of other use cases that come to mind. So samples that we will be distributing are, for example, how you can extend the page so that it would also contain Facebook-related information. There are a few samples like that which we will be distributing after this webinar, so that you can play with them, you can start using them straight away, and of course, if there are additional questions, you can ask them. In the remaining 7-8 minutes, I'd like to focus on those questions that you have asked over there, and maybe bring some of the more interesting ones to the attention of the general public.
One immediate I want to answer is that the related data is going to be supported for SiteSync, where this was very high on our priority list, but it will not be supported in several other scenarios. For example, the desktop application, formerly known as Lightning, is not, with this release, is not supporting these new types of fields. So this is one place where you will not be able to take advantage of the related fields.
All right. Daniel had a question. What if you have sessions that has one or more speakers? Will you see this session also include inside the speakers if that content type has related sessions? So Daniel, I think we showed you how to do that on the front end. So we showed you how sessions can list all the speakers that are related to that session, or how you can see which sessions a speaker is related to.
Yeah, using the extension methods, you can get the reverse relation.
Exactly. Through the backend, you can do this from here. When you go into a speaker, you can see what the related items to that one are, and
you can even open them.
Yeah, you can even preview those content items right from here. Okay. Okay, Joachim had a few questions about the parent-child relationship. So basically, you can define, so let me just get back to that page. I think that was the sessions page that you were asking about. So let's see. You were asking about those related data definition options here. So what happens if you change that relation type to child?
So just to explain, here we are showing sessions. So because the location is actually a field of the session, that's why we said here in the property relation type to display that it's the parent. So basically we are showing a parent-child relation. I mean, we are filtering by a child relation for the session, but the session is actually a parent of the location. So that's why we put parent here.
Yeah, and just to address your question, so whatever options we put here in this widget, that would also only affect that widget. So locations would not be filtered if we just change the relation type to display here. If we need the locations to be filtered, we have to go in there and adjust its own related data from here. So each widget's properties define the behavior of that widget on its own, if that makes sense. Okay, we have a question for related data. How can you filter by more than one child? So we can filter the sessions by location and by dates.
Yeah, actually for this release, we have not been able to make it so customizable. So basically right now, if you want to filter by the URL, and this is possible for only one type of relation. And in the next release, in the URL, it will be possible to specify, let's say, the field name by which we are trying to filter. And then it will be possible to filter by more than one related type. But with this release, this was the only solution that we were able to provide.
All right. And allow us a couple more minutes till we go through your questions, guys. And if there are any others, let us know. Yeah, there's an interesting question that I'll actually look forward to Nikki. So what excites you guys the most about Sitefinity 7? What is the most significant, or the feature that you like the most about?
Actually, I like this one, the related content, because up to now, this scenario, it took me probably, I don't know, less than an hour to build. The most time it took was for the styling and a bit of clearing of the HTML, but basically you can have a very powerful site without any coding. I mean, the only code that we have here is in the widget templates, and it's a pretty simple code. So for me, this is the productivity feature of the release. I mean, most of the time you had to deal with Thunder, with much more coding and complications, and here it is a feature that is going to save a lot of time.
Jeff has a question, will Sitefinity include instructions for upgrading to 7.0 from previous versions? Absolutely, Jeff. So we have the release notes ready. Actually, our fingers on the trigger. As Nikki mentioned, we will be releasing Sitefinity on Thursday, and with that, all accompanying information will be provided live on our website, so you can see exactly what the breaking changes are in details, what changes you have to make on the web config file, if any, to reflect those changes and to upgrade successfully without any issues.
And speaking of accompanying information, I wanted to use this opportunity and mention again that we will not be releasing the SDK as a download package anymore. It is now available on GitHub, where we will be maintaining it.
Yes, there will be no longer download in the installer for the SDK. This last question about the app builder and the desktop application, I already answered about the desktop application, but yes, also the app builder, the mobile app builder does not support the related data field. This is something we're going to catch up in the following months. We really wanted to make this feature available as soon as possible to our customers. There are a lot of people waiting for this, and even starting new projects immediately with this release. And we wanted to have this available as soon as possible, so we didn't complete all the satellite scenarios like the mobile app builder and the desktop application.
Right. And as we are just on top of the hour, there's another really quick request. If we could show the HTML5 video widget. Well, it's right there. We have broken up with Silverlight's finally, and now we have that video widget, which allows you to upload your videos in HTML5, and then when you actually plug in one, you will be able to play it in plain HTML5 without any dependency on Silverlight anymore.
About the granular permissions, no, we have not been able to complete this feature. Right now, the dynamic modules are still having permissions only on the provider level, meaning that you cannot have separate permissions per item. And by the way, we have SDK samples which shows a very valid scenario for having something like granular permissions, where you are able to set certain property on an item which is considered later in the front end, so you can filter who sees this item or who doesn't see this item. And I think this sample, I don't know the link by heart, but I'll put it on the Google Plus community group, this sample.
There was actually a question of what the URL is for the SDK on GitHub. So Greg, if you can just load it into the browser right now.
Sure, absolutely. And in the meantime, I wanted to address another question by Marcus. Let me just load that. .com/. Okay, so that is the URL. It's github.com/Sitefinity-SDK. That is the URL from which you can download the Sitefinity SDK. And we're not going to discontinue it, but we're just exporting this to GitHub so that you can get any version and you can get any of those samples without having to download the full package. And a question by Marcus. How were those three video formats picked right here? Marcus, anything that the video player supports can be plugged into the allowed file extensions, and that way you can play any format that the video player supports. So if you want to add something here, you just put it right away. If it's supported by the video player, it will be played right away.
By the way, the Windows Media Video is not supported by the HTML5. So.
Right. Okay. So with that, guys, I'd like to thank you for your attendance here today. I hope that webinar was useful for you guys. And I'd like to give the final word to Augie if he wants to share some more information with you guys.
Firstly, this webinar was recorded. And we will publish it on the Sitefinity Partner Extranet if you want to view it again. It will probably be up there in a couple of days. I just wanted to thank Greg for a wonderful presentation, and especially thank Nick for being our guest here today. Thank you to all attendees for sticking with us for a little over an hour. Thank you for the good questions. If we didn't manage to answer any of them today on the webinar, we will certainly follow up via email. And with that, we can say goodbye and until next time.
Cheers, guys. Have a great one.